Fact, 87.5% of information for entrepreneurs is wrong, or at least it's wrong for you. Today, we're going to be talking about wealth dynamics and the 8 different types of entrepreneurs so that you can understand how each one not only builds and creates wealth, but also leverages that wealth, making sure that you're doing the right stuff for you and your business. Now, this is the same system that I use to launch my companies, as well as hundreds of my workshop students have used this wealth dynamics system to scale their own income and impact. So pay close attention, take some notes, comment down below what your biggest takeaways are, or if you have any questions, because this video, like all the videos on this channel, is designed to help you keep finding your flow. A lot of entrepreneurs spend years building the wrong business or doing things that are not in their flow before they finally figure out the stuff that works for them. In fact, a lot of people never figure out what works for them, and they end up in a business that they feel really chained to. The wealth dynamics system helps get rid of all of that, as it allows you to really hone in on the things that are best for you, that you should be focused on, who should be on your team, so that you make sure you're taking your effort in the right direction. Now, if you've seen my Entrepreneur Element video already, then you have some awareness around the fact that we each have, as entrepreneurs, a different element that when we're in it, we're operating at a higher level of proficiency, getting more done, making more money, making a bigger impact in the lives of our clients, our customers, and our teams. We're going to go a level deeper in this video as we actually look at the system that inspired the entrepreneur elements, which is the wealth dynamics system. So I'll take you through a little bit of the history, my history with it, as well as how you can start using this system today, applying it to your business to make sure you're getting the most results possible, that you're in your flow and that you're enjoying building your business. One of my favorite things about wealth dynamics is that it tells you your winning formula as well as your losing formula. So you can make sure you're doing the things that are actually going to get you results and avoiding the mistakes that could sink you. Now, a little bit about the history of wealth dynamics. This system was created by a man named Roger Hamilton, who has become a mentor of mine. He originally created the system in 2003, but it's based off of the I Ching, which is a 5,000-year-old text that the Chinese have literally used for thousands of years to be able to figure out how to interface with their own lives, the changing of the seasons, the changing of their lives, and how people are actually different. And that's what it distills into these 8 different profile types, is that there are 8 different approaches to being an entrepreneur and having a business. And when you understand which approach is right for you, you're able to get results that otherwise you would never be able to attain. Now, I've been mentored by Roger himself for years, and together we helped over 3,000 people discover this wealth dynamic system. And so I'm super excited to be showing it to you, hopefully even introducing you to the concepts that are going to make a massive difference in your business and in your life. So let's go ahead and dive in. So let's begin by taking a look at the wealth dynamics square. So the first thing to understand about wealth dynamics is it's from the Chinese I Ching, which means it follows the elements of nature. And so in I Ching, it's a little bit different from the elements you might have heard of if you watched Captain Planet growing up, but it's going to begin up here with the element of wood. Now, wood is represented in the I Ching both as an element of growth and an element of newness. And so if you look at it according to the seasons, it would also associate with the season of spring. Now, obviously, spring season turns into another season, which is summer. Now, if this is the beginning of your business, a new product, a new company, a new promotion, it's all about bringing something into the game, something to life, something new. But once you do bring that thing, that idea into the world, it's now time to take it out to the people, to do the marketing, to take it from spring into summer. Now, in the I Ching, they use the element of fire to represent summer. Now, fire, again, is all about the people. It's about the hustle and the bustle and things are moving. So in the same way that spring might be when, a sprout first comes out of the ground, summer is when things really begin to bloom. And so if you're looking at a business, this is when things start to take off. A promotion, it's when marketing starts to get out there and people start to hear about what you have to offer. Now, when we move from there, we're going to move into the 3rd season, which is the season of autumn. Or in the I Ching, this would be represented by the element of earth. Now, the earth element is all about groundedness. It's about being here and now, present. And so really this shows up when it's time to deliver the service that you've been marketing and selling. Maybe this is the process of closing the deal and then taking it out to the market, delivering your product, shipping it. When we look at the earth or the autumn element, this is really the time when we harvest. Now, of course, when we harvest the things that have bloomed and blossomed because they originally came out of the earth, we have to take that harvest and we have to make sure it lasts. And so that brings us to our final season, which is the season of winter. Now, winter is represented in the I Ching by the element of metal. Okay, so winter, this is the final stage in a business, right? So you've launched your product, you've taken it out to the market, you've made your sales, you've delivered it, and now it's time to actually do accounting, to look at the numbers, to see how well that you did, and maybe engineer a better way to do it next time. Now, if you think about winter and the seasons and the way that it associates with, the agrarian society, this is when we harvest. Well, we got to make it to spring. So that's why it's so important to have your numbers, because the food that you've harvested before we could buy strawberries in February, right? The food that we harvested actually needs to make it through the winter. And so those storehouses are able to measure and make sure that we have what we need. And so when we look at these 4 different seasons or these 4 different elements, it begins to show us that, not everything in business is the same. Well, neither is all of the people in business. And so if you look at the top here, each of these are actually represented in the wealth dynamic system by a different type of genius, right? The people that are good with ideas and good with product development and good with strategy are not always the same people that are good with showing up in the here and the now and serving. And the people that are great with going out there and marketing and networking and connecting with people aren't always the best with systems. So let's look at what those 4 different geniuses are, because one of them is yours. The first one here is what we call the dynamo genius. Okay, and the dynamo genius is good with ideas. Okay, so head in the clouds, right? Now this is different from over here in the summer where you have what we call our blaze genius. Now the blaze is a genius when it comes to people, which is why oftentimes if you are a blaze genius, you'll find yourself in a position of leadership. Oftentimes even the CEO of a company, maybe not the one that you started, but one that the CEO is happy to let you take over the role for them. Now Earth down here, this is what we call the tempo genius, and that's because the tempo is good with timing. Okay, so good in the here and the now and the present, right? And then finally, we have the steel genius over here. Just like the word metal, we have the word steel, right? And they're all about systems and structure. Now, when you look at this and you see these different energies, what begins to happen is you begin to realize that some of these are you, but some of them are you as well, right? So you might look at this and say, yeah, I'm great with ideas, but I'm also kind of good with systems. Or maybe you feel like, I'm good with timing and I'm good with people. Maybe all of these are in you. And that really is the truth. All of us have all 4 of these energies within us. The goal as an entrepreneur is to recognize exactly what percentage of each of those you have so that you can show up most powerfully in your business. And the way that we take a person and put them onto the square is actually by using Carl Jung's work, where he was able to elucidate that we have different ways of thinking and different ways of acting. Now, on this vertical axis here, this is the way that we think, right? Or what we call our thinking dynamic. And it's a spectrum, right? So the further you are down here, the more your thinking dynamic is what we call sensory, right? Which means that you interact with life through your senses. Like, what's really happening? Can you taste it? Can you touch it? Can you smell it? Can you feel it? And if you can, then you know it's real. Very different from somebody up here on this side of the square who's more of an intuitive, right? So an intuitive person has a thinking dynamic that's much more head in the clouds, much more big picture, connecting dots that other people can't see and kind of coming up with new solutions. And so whereas up here you might have somebody like a Steve Jobs who's great at creating products that sends Apple's price skyrocketing, down here you're going to have somebody who's more like a George Soros who's trading people stuff. They don't have to invent anything because they make their money off just knowing when something is a good deal and trading at the right time. Now, left and right, this is what we call our action dynamic. Now, if you've ever taken any sort of personality profile assessment, you've probably been labeled as either an introvert or an extrovert. In wealth dynamics, when we talk about introvert and extrovert, what we don't mean is your personality is hiding behind the scenes or flamboyantly out, in the crowd. What we mean is that you either take action to figure things out yourself, or you're more likely to take that action through other people. And so this over here on this side is what we call the introverted action dynamic. And this, of course, is the extroverted. Again, systems versus people, that means that this action dynamic is actually going to have, figure something out themselves, right? Watch the YouTube video or read the instruction manual. Where on this side, they'll outsource it. It used to drive me nuts the way that my wife operated because I didn't know her profile. So when we first got married and I would ask her to do something, she'd be like, okay, cool. And then she'd go get somebody else to do it. When I was a kid, that was called passing the buck. But now that I understand that my wife is a bona fide blaze genius, it makes sense that she would have other people do things. So how have I learned as a husband? Well, I give her more things to do because she can just find more people to do them, right? Okay, so as you look at this, you begin to realize that, okay, we're all different. So how does that show up in business? How does somebody create value or create leverage? Well, you may have seen me talk about this before, and that is what we call the wealth formula. Wealth equals Value times leverage. You're either creating value or you're leveraging that value. Keep in mind, you do want to do value first. Now, value is created in two different ways. If you're up here in the innovative or in the intuitive land, the way that you're going to do it is through innovation. Conversely, if you're down here on the sensory side, you're going to create your value through timing. Now, on the left side here and the right side here, we have two different types of leverage, but let's talk about what does innovation look like? It's a new product, right? You're bringing something to market. Timing is you're going to show up and deliver it in real time. Now, on the right side here, let's say you've now got a way of delivering value. You created a new pair of tennis shoes that you put flubber in the heel of the shoe, and now Muggsy Bogues can dunk a basketball even at his current age, okay? Now, if you do that, great, you got something that you can sell. Let's say you can sell it for $100. Takes you all day to make a pair of shoes, and you sell it for $100. You then deliver that pair of shoes. You need to have some sort of store or somewhere where those shoes can actually be delivered. But you're only able to make one pair of shoes per day. So there's your $100. But if you want to be able to create more money, be able to create more wealth, you need to leverage that. And so you have two options. Well, on the right side here, we have what's called magnification. Okay, this would be calling up your buddy who knows LeBron James and getting him to slap his name on the shoe. And suddenly now you can sell that same pair of shoes for $200 instead of $100. Same amount of value that you went into it, but now it has more perceived value because you've linked up with somebody that can grow your brand. On the left side here, this is what's called multiplication. Okay, on the multiplication side, this is where you then build a factory that can make shoes. You hire other people to make the shoes for you, removing yourself from the process and allowing more shoes to be made. So maybe now you're able to produce 2 or 3 pairs of shoes in the same period of time. Again, allowing you to grow the wealth that was created from the value that you originally produced. Now, as we look at this, use this marker. I dropped it. Okay, so as we look at this, there are 8 different possible places that you could find yourself on this square. And this is the key. This is where the rubber really meets the road, and it allows you to choose your path to wealth, find the celebrity entrepreneurs that have taken your path before so that you know exactly what to copy. And the first one right here is what we call the creator. Now, the creator profile is somebody like Richard Branson or Steve Jobs, right? Somebody that creates products and brings them to market. Because they're so dynamo up here and great with ideas, they're in vision land, they're great at intuitively coming up with stuff. The challenge is they suck at timing, right? So just like Elon Musk coming up with the next cyber truck, it's going to deliver a couple years late. We already know that, and that's okay, right? So we get that, good at starting, not so great at finishing. We move now to the right. This is our wealth dynamic star. Okay, now the star is, kind of a dynamo and kind of a blaze. They're in the corner pocket there, which means that the star both has the ideas and the people, both those things going for them. So whereas the creators over there coming up with new products and new systems and new programs and new companies, the star doesn't need to do that. And oftentimes stars find themselves at a loss because they're trying to come up with products when that's not their genius. They can take an already existing product and position it way better than a creator. That's why we say the creator sets the stage, but the star steals the show. The challenge with stars, though, is they don't often realize that their biggest value is in shining light on others, other people's products, other people's programs. If you think about somebody like Beyonce Knowles or somebody like Tony Robbins or somebody like Oprah Winfrey, these are all stars. And when Oprah gets on stage and she's pointing on somebody else, she's saying, hey, look at Deepak Chopra. Hey, look at Eckhart Tolle. Look at what they're doing, right? That's when she's in her genius, and that's when she can really thrive. The challenge with the star is because they're up here and they're dynamo, they're moving fast. Because they're blaze, they are inspiring. But oftentimes that inspiration doesn't always lead to the team wanting to follow them. Stars are great people to have at your back and the worst people to have against you. Hell hath no fury like a star scorned. Now let's move to the third part, this one right here, or what we call the supporter. Now, the supporter, less famous, right? These are the people that kind of come in to take over companies after the CEO has gotten them kicked off. If you think about Meg Whitman, who took over eBay, or Jack Welch, who took over General Electric. The supporter, my wife's profile, is actually really great with people. They're a people genius, but because they're on this side of the wealth dynamic square, they also tend to suck at systems. Not that they can't follow a system. In fact, if you give a supporter a system, they thrive. They just don't come up with systems, and they don't naturally think, hey, let me find a way to use a system. And so when you have a supporter on your team, or if you are a supporter, you want to join something in the summer season of that business. You don't want to be a supporter at the beginning of a company. This is the reason why so many supporters struggle with what they believe entrepreneurship is, because they define it with the creator definition, coming up with products and companies and launching them. Supporters are actually geniuses at being able to just step in when it's already summer. Speaking of summer, if you come down a little bit further down here in the bottom right corner, you have the deal maker. Now, the deal maker does have that same people genius that we found with the supporter and the star, but they've also got this timing genius. And because of that, the deal maker is great for knowing when to tie down the knots, when to make things happen. Now, deal makers are often so caught up in whining and dining that sometimes they, miss out on the deal. They find themselves on the outside of, deals that they already put two people together. So it's important for a deal maker to know that you can make more money on a single deal than most of these people up here make in years. But sometimes that requires patience, something that a deal maker has more of than the other profiles. But again, being the opposite from over here, they're going to be a little bit low on the big picture and a little bit low on the systems thinking. And for that reason, the deal maker needs to make sure that they're leveraging their existing network. For famous deal makers, the two that come to mind is Masayoshi Son and Donald Trump. So Masayoshi Son, if you don't know him, he actually created a company called SoftBank, where he goes and gets billions of dollars from oil sheiks and then takes it to Silicon Valley to fund Uber. We all know who Donald Trump is, and love him or hate him, if you study the way that he did his business, you can find your own path to flow as a deal maker, which is to actually find the right people at the right time and bring them together. Speaking of people and timing, let's move now over to this profile right here, which is what we call the trader. Okay. Now, the wealth dynamics trader, this is going to be your Rupert Murdoch, your George Soros, right? This is going to be somebody like a trader who trades the stock market, right? Or it could be somebody that buys low and sells high. They could buy and sell cars. Maybe they have a brick and mortar business, right? Oftentimes, your traders are people that just straight up don't even need to come up with anything because there's enough inefficiencies in the market that they can make a profit off the arbitrage between, again, buying low and selling high. Over and over and over. Unlike the deal maker who makes all their money in like single chunks, big deals, the trader wants to make sure they negotiate the way they're going to make their money up front, and they make a lot of money off little deals over and over and over and over. Bottom left corner here, further away from the people genius, we have what's called the accumulator. Now, our accumulator is Warren Buffett, right? Somebody who stays behind the scenes, has a knack for timing, but also systematic thinking. Warren Buffett was actually able to buy a piece of Goldman Sachs in 2008. Goldman Sachs isn't for sale. So why was he able to do that? Well, because he positioned himself intelligently, looking at the market's timing and make sure from a systematic perspective that he had the money he needed to be able to buy it up. And that's the reason why, unlike the trader who gets in and out of deals, the accumulator doesn't sell. They just buy and hold forever. All right, now let's move to the seventh profile, which is the wealth dynamics lord. Right? So the wealth dynamics lord is like a landlord, right? Somebody that oversees things that, it's already gone through the spring, summer, and fall season, right? This could be somebody that has properties or somebody that's overseeing the world's data, like Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Or if you go back even further, John D. Rockefeller with oil wells, right? These are the people that they understand systems. And because of that, they're able to stay the course, be patient, make sure things are done the right way, and they have so much attention to detail, you want this person checking all of your copywriting for your website. Now, the downside of being a lord, of course, is they don't want to go out networking. They feel a little bit uncomfortable in those social situations. And so lords need to stay behind the scenes where they're really going to be the most valuable by being able to leverage their knack for financing and their knack for understanding numbers. And then this brings us to our eighth and final profile, which is the wealth dynamics mechanic. Like Ray Kroc of McDonald's, the mechanic masters the system, right? McDonald's runs on 18-year-olds running the whole company. It's pretty amazing how well that system is in place. Another person, Sam Walton from Walmart, or Jeff Bezos from Amazon. These are all examples of entrepreneurs who didn't come up with the product, didn't come up with the idea. They just found one that worked and made it better. I mean, how many times do you order something from Amazon simply because it's easier? Right? So that's what the mechanic does. They simplify very complex things that have already been proven. The best at finishing and the worst at starting. Now that you see this and you understand it, one of these eight is you. Maybe just from what I said, you can guess. But the path to wealth is so different from each of these that the cost of guessing wrong is huge. So I highly recommend that you actually take the test to find out who you are and who the people on your team need to be. All right, that was a lot. Be sure to like this video if you liked it and subscribe to this channel so that you can get more videos like this. And don't forget the notification bell so that it notifies you whenever we have a new episode. If you had a big takeaway from this or any questions, make sure you comment that down below as well. And as a reminder, if you already know what your profile type is, there's actually some other videos here on my channel specific for each of the profile types. So go check out the video specific to your profile type for the 6 keys to success. In fact, while you're at it, watch the videos for your 2 profile wings as well. As a reminder, that is to the left and to the right of your primary profile on that wealth dynamics square. Awesome. Until next time, remember to keep finding your flow.